Today's day 28. I had every intention of watering this down last night or pouring some of it into there, and I didn't get around to it. Oops. Let's just open it up and see if it's all dead. Wouldn't be surprised at all if it's all dead. Hey, not bad actually. I still see quite a few swimming around there. Not as many as before. Still quite a few. Yeah, not exactly looking good, but there's still plenty of white stuff swimming towards the light, so we should be able to get away with it. Alright, let's try and save it. Okay, it is game time. We're going to try and get the most out of this outstanding performing culture by pouring half of it into this one and giving it more space to grow, and then we're going to water this one down with more salt water. So here we go. Since I'm going to have them in this nice glass jar, we are going to take a look at them underneath the flashlight, and yeah, let's get down to business. Here we go. I'm going to fill it up to there. Give it a good stir. That's the right thing to do. Here we go. Okay, that's most of them. Holy smokes. Now most of this is just gunk. Okay, we gotta let this settle for a second before we can really see what's going on in there. But it does look really good actually. Okay, so let's turn the light on and just talk for a second about what's up next. So, after this one settles, we're going to pour this one into the Big Kahuna, and then we're going to start salt water dripping into here to get this back up to a reasonable height. And then this is going to get poured into here. The reason I can't add salt water yet is whatever salt water is going in here is going to be used as a rinse initially on the side of this to make sure that any rotifers that get stuck to the side from the water tension get released. With that all being said, here we go. We can probably look at it now. Yeah, and it's a shame there's so much TW1800 in there because we can't really get a good look through all that extra activity. But let's just zoom in and see if we see anybody moving towards the light. Wow, that is so fabulous. This is better than I deserve. I cannot believe the opportunity and abundance inside that 3-liter Epsom salt container. Wow. You can see the general drifting of the green stuff down and out through the bottom here. And then you can see the general drifting of all the white stuff towards the light. Wonderful. It's funny that sometimes they swim so fast and sometimes they move so slowly. I still don't understand what's going on. If it's a different age of rotifers or if it's just the water movement makes them look faster. But yeah, you can see movement of a lot of white things towards the light. And you can see the green stuff is slowly but surely falling down. So all that white stuff is, not all of it, but all the white stuff moving in the direction of the light is alive. And it's living rotifers. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a wonderful abundance to behold. Man, oh man. Could look at this all day. We got stuff to do. Yeah, so most of the white stuff in there is not alive, but you can see there's more in the light section than in the dark section. So yeah, this is a really, really, really nice culture. Really happy with that. Okay. So, this just saved our month. We're now going to have thousands of rotifers in this Big Kahuna jar, blossoming into month 2. And then we're going to fill this guy back up, and hopefully it continues to perform. Okay, here we go. Let's do the pour. I'm trying my best to pour it so that it doesn't hit the sides. It is hitting the bubbler tube. I'm trying not to hit the sides so that rotifers and other living things don't get stuck there. Okay, that's that. Okay, good. Now we gotta water this down. I'm gonna rinse it off. This is my 1.020. I think it's actually 1.0205, but I really don't know. And yeah, I'm just doing this to catch anybody still in there. Now I'm gonna just use this to drip. Okay, so the new guys, half of this is now in the Big Kahuna. I've got a fresh drip of salt water going into this again. The salinity of this is 1.0205, or basically 1.020. The salinity of this is presumably 1.023 to 1.025, which means I really can't afford to add that much of the salinity per day. So I think my current drip in here is going to get us up to about that line, and we're just going to let it sit there, and then slowly but surely I'll add more. Now this is actually the rinse of this one, but I can't afford to put that much of this low salinity solution into here at this point. I risk crashing what I consider my best culture. And then for the rest of this solution, I will be putting some of it in here, but most of it is going to go into here. And then I have enough salt water made that we can fill the rest of these. Well, we can fill this one all the way up, and we can fill the Big Kahuna up halfway. And then, yeah, then we're rolling into the next cycle, I'd say. So, not terrible position at the end of 1 month. You know, we got a couple thousand rotifers anyways, just based on probably getting 1,000 out of there, and then whatever else is existing in the other systems, because we know we have quite a few in here. We know there's at least, you know, a couple dozen in here, and at least a couple of dozen in the glass jar. And then, you know, we're hoping there's a couple thousand in here, but we really can't know. So yeah, we have a rotifer population, I would say. I want to say we have a stable rotifer population, but that's not true. But we do definitely have more rotifers than we started the month with. And we have the potential now, within a week or two, of actually having multiple gallons of dense rotifer solution. Not that that's to be assumed, right? Because basically we seem to go through waves of dense solution. So it seems like each culture peaks and then valleys off. Though the peak is a different density for each one, or for each run, or for whatever the conditions or limiters are. I think if I did the oxygen levels perfectly, we could get pretty dense. But you can see, that's not always easy. For example, this guy just went out. So, yeah. Yeah. At the end of the first month, we're in position to get to 15 gallons in 2 weeks. That's kind of a crazy stretch goal, but that's where I'd like to be, essentially. I think if I had 15 gallons, then I could go do whatever I wanted with them. But anything less than that, and you're just one crash away from being back where you started. Cool. This is day 28, by the way. So I finally got around to completing all my splittings again by day 28. Okay, so all of that water went into here. I don't know how much that is, but it seems like it went from about there to there, so that's probably too much water added, but that's okay. And we're now going to just add a little bit of this rinse water into the Big Kahuna. So there we go. And honestly, there's no real need to be careful here, because this has enough water volume to be able to absorb quite a bit. It's at least, well, it's not that much. It's about a gallon, right? So it can handle that much anyways. Got an air pocket here. Is this going now? So yeah, we'll add to that. Unfortunately, I can't add any more water to this today. I've already dropped their salinity about 0.1. I'm not measuring it with the refractometer, but I can guess roughly, because we added about a third to the volume with 0.005 lower specific gravity water. So we'll just put the lid on this guy and go to sleep. Probably use a feed, but who knows, right? Who knows? Okay. Yeah, that's that. There's still this much more rinse water to get rid of that I won't want to pour back into my existing salt water, so that'll all eventually go up in the Big Kahuna or back into here, depending on timing. Notice how this jar and this jar have bubbles accumulating on the surface, but the original culture jar does not. I poured aquarium wastewater, this one, which is from here. I poured aquarium wastewater into both of these a few days ago, and we're waiting to see if the rotifers respond well to it, because the aquarium is very cloudy and it should be full of food that they'd eat. Look at the top of the tank though. There's a bunch of bubbles accumulating. Bubbles accumulating on the top of your tank can mean that you have a protein buildup. In other words, you have a slick, right? You have a dirty tank and you have a slick. And so we got protein buildup here and here. And it's worse in the coconut oil jar than it is in the glass jar. Probably because the glass jar was doing a lot better to start with than this guy is. So interesting. I don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to change the water. It was a push case. I was pushing my luck. So we'll see. But I also think that the rotifer should be able to consume a lot of those proteins and fats. They shouldn't care if it's alive or not. They should be able to suck that in and eat it up, as long as they can survive the toxicity of the nitrate levels, which really still shouldn't be that high. Well, maybe. I don't know. That's a lot of green stuff in the bottom. That's a lot of green stuff in the bottom now that's not alive. So maybe the nitrates are quite high. Anyways, let's go zoom in, see what's going on in these protein full tanks. We'll start with this guy. And there are rotifers swimming around. I can see them. Oh yeah, look at them go, eh? They actually look quite healthy. When the bubbler is moving, their swimming looks a lot faster. Okay, let's just turn the bubbler off. Excuse me for a second. Okay. Now with the bubbler off, the water's still turning slightly. This tank looks pretty good compared to what it was. It is doing better than it was a few days ago. Definitely. It's probably got high nitrates because it's got high protein. And it's looking pretty yellow. But also should work. Now, let's go over here. It might just be that, like, yeah, it's great if you got lots for them to eat, but if the nitrate levels are toxic, it doesn't matter, right? And I'm not good enough at saltwater yet to know the difference. Okay. We'll go up here. And this little glass jar continues to impress. Isn't that strange? Why would a mason jar perform better? Maybe a healthier colony to start with. Anyways, not super dense, but they're going. And they're definitely not any worse than yesterday. And they are arguably better. So, okay. Let's continue with the high protein levels. Perhaps this is turning into an experiment to see if they're going to resolve the high protein levels. Let's just take a second here and we might as well see if the baby tank has protein buildup. And it does. It's got a lot more shine on it than it did before. And the bubblers are hanging around a lot longer. And holy cow, there's a lot of rotifers in here. Whoa. Okay, let's see if you guys can see them. We can't. Alright, well, let's try doing this then. So it makes sense there's protein buildup in here, right? Yeah, that's a lot of rotifers in a tank this big. Wowee. Wowee. I'm not in a position to really harvest these, but wowee. That's a lot of rotifers. And things that are bigger than rotifers. So there's cocopods in there too. Oh my goodness. Well, there's your phytoplankton farm. My goodness. Here we are on day 28, and we have a phytoplankton farm where we least expected it. Well guys, I'll try and get a better lens for you soon. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Well guys, we just got upgraded to a C+ or even a B-. Shocking turnaround here. Hooray for day 28. Whew. Mainly because this baby tank is packed with rotifers. Just teeming with them. Eating whatever cloudy water infection I got by putting too much TW1800 solution in it. Fabulous. Now if I can get them to clean this water, then that's a nice rotifer culture. That would be the A+, right? If on day 30, if the rotifers had cleared that tank of whatever cloudy water it had, and I was just teeming with rotifers. So, here's hoping.